I genuinely thought that millennials wouldn't fall into that whenever it was happening to us, because I was like, you know what, we're going to be the first generation to self reflect and realize that how dumb it is to blame basically the children of the economy. Hey, y'all, exciting news for no one but me, but I got a new CPU in yesterday and I replaced one for the first time in my life. Well, for the first time and successfully. I've not done it before and broken anything. Thank goodness, because it's a fear. I don't know really how rational that fear is. People who do more work on computers would know if that's rational, but I was scared multiple times during the process. But it's done. It's success. If you don't know me and you don't, if you're watching this, probably because most people don't know me, but I have never fully put a PC together. I have done upgrades to a really shitty one that was what's that called, pre-build. Uh, I don't know if it was actually from Walmart or like someone just selling on their website in like 2019, but my mom ordered a pre-build. Bless her heart. It was trash, so she gifted it to me. That sounds worse than it is. She didn't know what to do with it, okay? And at the time, I didn't either, but I have done a whole lot of upgrading since then. And fun fact, I think most people, or a lot of people I've talked to that have computers, have not applied thermal paste, or they've done it like once in their lives. Me and my husband started using PCs at the same time. Why am I rambling? This has nothing to do with the video. Oh well, I just finished my story. We started using PCs at the same time instead of Xbox. And he put thermal paste when because he built his from scratch. And then that is the only time he has done it since then. Why is my camera so high? So high, high, high above me. Um, but I have for some reason ended up putting thermal paste on like 6 times since then. I have had issues where I've had to put it on there, which I got his old computer, so it had went 5 years since he had put it on there, so I ended up having to apply that because it was like it was mad and needed thermal paste. But for some reason, I have ended up doing it like 6 or 7 times now. So if you ever need your thermal paste replaced, holler at me. I'll do it for free. I'll just tell you how to do it. Don't be a creep on the internet. I'm not coming to your house. I'm applying thermal paste. But if I knew you, I would. If I knew you, I would do it for free because I just don't give a shit at this point. It's just part of my daily process. Can't tell. I'm a little aggravated that for some reason people can get by without even touching it. And I'm just like, thermal paste in my butt. Today's video. I'm a millennial. All right. We know this. If you haven't figured this out yet, what the fuck is wrong with you? Obviously, I'm a very cringy millennial. Okay. I make people grit their teeth in pain and have pain. I think that it's pretty obvious at this point, and I have a sneaking suspicion. Let's see. My audience is mainly 25 to 34, and I think like 27, 28 is where millennials start. So probably, and then I've got 28% 18 to 24. So that's definitely Gen Z. Sorry, you guys. Sorry, you had to witness this. And then I've got 35 to 44, also millennials. So I think my suspicion is correct. I think most of you are millennials, and I don't make you want to jump off a bridge when you watch me speak. Maybe I still do. I don't know. I think I'm being too hard on millennials because, see, here's the thing. Okay, 2015, 2016, a lot of hate towards millennials from the older crowd, right? And then around, what was it? Not even 2020. I'd say the last 2 to 3 years. A lot of hate for millennials from Gen Z. So if you catch me being hard on myself and millennials in general, first of all, there are a lot of cringy as fuck millennials on the internet. I'm not even here to lie to you. There are a lot of them also that hate on Gen Z, like their self reflection skill tree is at a zero. They've leveled nothing up, and I hate them for it. If that's you, I hate you. Um, like so we just received hate from one direction, and then we got a little bit older and we received it from the other direction. So it is a self-fulfilling it is a self-fulfilling prophecy that I too would hate on the millennial generation as a millennial. You know what? I have wanted to make a whole video about it, and I might one day. Let me know if you'd be interested in that, because everyone's a product of their time, but what a weird fucking time we had. Why am I moving my head like that? I don't know. I don't care. But anyways, I want to react to a video today that has really nothing to do with what I've been talking about, because I have had an energy shot. Those are not good for you. Don't take those. I apologize. Today, we're going to watch a video by Zackary Smigel. I don't word well at the best of times, okay? We're watching one of his videos. It's going to be great. How alcohol lost the plot. So this is supposed to basically be a video about how big alcohol is not really selling to Gen Z. And I kind of want to, I'm not Gen Z. I have some Gen Z friends. Bless their hearts. They've taken me in. So I'm close to a couple of Gen Z people that I may see. This is the millennial predicament. I say I'm close to them, and even though I know that is somewhat true, like I talk to them regularly, like more than my own mother, I immediately feel a little bit of regret saying that, because I'm like, what if they don't think I'm cool though, and they don't think we're close? Not even cool, but like they don't think we're close. Self-confidence is at a negative 52. I wanted to react to this because even though I'm not Gen Z, I feel like this decline, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it somewhat started with my generation. Like, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. When my generation was younger, I think we tended to go out and drink quite a bit, and but like most of the people I know my age, or millennials in general, like they don't regularly buy alcohol. I feel like the older generations before them did. I could totally be wrong, but like I haven't noticed it. Like in the last decade, I've maybe drank once a year most of those decades. And it's probably sometimes not even that. So, anyways, I thought this was an interesting topic, and I wanted to react to it. I've already been recording for too long because I can't shut my mouth.
Saviors of the planet, or a group of TikTok degens dismantling everything we hold dear. I mean, just look at some of these headlines. Gen Z killed cereal, logos, sandwiches, traditional retail, and everyone's favorite dad dance, the Macarena. But the one thing the media and a ton
not
of
the Macarena
about is the idea that
okay, in all serious, most of those things needed to die, but the Macarena? Get out. Dude, get out.
Gen Z is destroying big booze. Chart after chart, headline after headline, tweet after tweet, all sounding the same alarm. The alcohol industry is dead, and
Does anyone else love how it's still called tweets and Twitter? Like almost no one has changed what they call it, and I love that.
Z was caught holding the gun. Now, you guys know me. I love a good murder mystery, and while many view this as settled science, I am here to investigate, or at the very least defend Gen Z's place in all of this, because you know what? Someone has to. I am so sick. Like literally, I've been sick for 2 months.
Why? Look, here's the thing. Like, I understand why you're saying that, but you don't need to defend Gen Z for killing things that were often fucked up to begin with, okay?
is happening to me?
But also generally, I am so sick of people blaming a generation that graduated into a pandemic and can't afford to buy a house for every cultural downfall
True.
ever. Gen Z killed movie theaters. Gen Z killed skinny jeans. Guess what? Gen Z is about...
Okay, skinny jeans. We could talk about that. I love skinny jeans. And also, I don't think Gen Z killed them because I have still been wearing them the entire time. Other skinny jean lovers, you're welcome. I've done my due diligence. But movie theaters, as much as I love the movie theater and it's very nostalgic, it has always been known to be way too expensive to go to the movie theater because the ticket is like $15. I honestly don't know how much it is now, and then like your snacks, like a beverage is like $6. Like it kind of like movie theaters. It's not that you needed to go. It's that you needed to get real. We're putting stuff in our purse to bring in to eat and drink because you need to get real. Like if you don't want to have all this food and beverage and just literally not sell it and throw it all away and completely go to waste, bring your prices down to a reasonable price because we can barely afford to Netflix and chill, much less go out to see a movie and then buy stuff to eat and drink. Are you insane? Get out. Also, a lot of these things aren't just like Gen Z doesn't do or can't afford. It's also millennials. Like, we also can't buy houses. Like, there are millennials that own houses. Don't get me wrong. I know some of them, they do exist. But so many of us are stuck renting or living with someone else because what else are we supposed to do? Only so many people can have those high paying jobs that afford you to be able to buy a house. And then even then, like a lot of the times you need to have some sort of education to have those jobs. Or, maybe you're getting in the game late for some of those jobs if you don't have to have extra education for those. And so like all kinds of reasons. And so I just want to point out that I think that he's talking about Gen Z here, but a lot of these things, millennials are in the same boat, or like it kind of like they were kind of part of it beginning.
$3 to their name, and they're not exactly living in a world that was built for them. Obviously, Gen Z is drinking less. But you know who is also drinking less? Millennials. Humans who smoke reefer, and a new wave of health-focused people. Blaming...
To be clear, I don't smoke reefer anymore. I wish I could desperately, but it has become one of those, like, it gives me too much paranoia and anxiety, and I so miss the days where it didn't do that because it was a good time. And I would just love to like have one puff and chill for the day, but it would be like have one puff and be like for the day, and I don't want that.
One generation barely scratches the surface of this monumental moment. And when you see the full picture, the Gen Z narrative starts to look a lot less an explanation and a lot more like a deflection. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to cover the history, the cultural forces at play, and then follow the money. And trust me, that last part is where things get...
Hold on, I got a new headset on its way. It's delivered! I'll be right back! Oh, man. No! Okay, we might keep that, but we'll have to blur your face.
Really interesting. Let's start with the data. According to the most recent Gallup polling, only 54% of US adults say they currently drink alcohol. That is the lowest.
I forgot that last time I did one of these, I did not have the audio on the video high enough, so I'm going to try to turn that up.
Level ever recorded in nearly 90 years. 90 years. While consumption usually fluctuates in waves, we've never seen a nosedive quite like this. Additionally, 53% of Americans now say even moderate drinking is bad for you, a sentiment that is skyrocketing among women and young adults. That is a massive shift, but the biggest indicator of this change, the money. The global alcohol industry has reportedly shed an estimated $830 billion in market value over the last 4 years. That is what gamers who work in finance would classify as a massive L. And if we look at specifics, things
Concord.
get even crazier. California's Napa and Sonoma valleys are seeing family-owned vineyards shut down, not because of wildfires or bad harvests, but because of a pure demand collapse. In 2024, California recorded its smallest wine grape harvest in nearly
I don't think that it's a coincidence that the use of cannabis has went up and it's been legalized in a lot of places, and even the places where it's not fully legalized have become more lax on it, and companies drug testing when hiring have become more lax on it. I don't think that that is necessarily a coincidence. And obviously, they tried to get rid of alcohol a long time ago. I don't know, what was it, like the 20s? I don't remember, 1920s, something like that. Um, and the demand for it was just too high, and I feel like to some degree the same thing has happened with cannabis. It was illegal everywhere, and like here in the US, specifically, and like the demand for it is just too high. And when that happens, it's going to become part of capitalism. People are going to want to dip the toe in the money of the demand of the thing the thing that there's just too much demand for. Um, and honestly, I think that to some degree, these two things are less dangerous than other like drugs or what have you that you can get. And I think that that also plays a big part in their legalization and then the consumerism and capitalism that thereafter. I feel like I'm wording really weird. I apologize. But I definitely think that the ability to profit off these things has played a big part in why they were like, okay, well, let's legalize these things. Um, and then that has taken a huge hit into alcohol because although, like I said, it makes me really paranoid now and I can't do it anymore. It was my thing of choice for a very long time because, I could do that, go to sleep, and wake up just fine. If I drank, like drinking made me feel worse, is the best way to say it. Like, actually, smoking or eating cannabis or weed didn't make me feel bad at all. But drinking, it can make you feel bad while you're doing it, and the next day, while typically cannabis does not, unless you're one of those people like me who get paranoid or anxious. And I think that that too has played a big part in why people choose it over alcohol. And even though I'm not even doing that now, I still don't get alcohol that much because it can make you feel bad. So while it can make you feel really, really good, it can also make you feel really, really bad. So it's just like, it's something that my body, I guess, and my mind has learned is like, you can really enjoy this and then really hate yourself for it later. So I think that also plays a part.
2 decades, a staggering 23% drop in a single year. The grapes grew fine.
Oh, wow.
It's just
That's
nobody wanted
actually
them.
a lot.
Industry experts estimate that between 100,000 and 400,000 tons of high-quality grapes were simply left to rot on the vine because growers couldn't find a single buyer. Craft beer tells a similar story.
People can eat grapes too. Pull them off. Give them away for free. Like, am I wrong to think that these vineyards are in California and like, isn't there like a large, maybe I'm totally wrong and crazy, but I thought that there was like a relatively large homeless population there. Like, what? You would rather just have them go to waste than people be able to eat them? Like, you could just donate them. You could just not be a piece of shit that only wants profit, and you could just donate them. I hate you.
In 2024, U.S. craft brewers made about 23 million barrels, down 4% from the year before. The National Brewers Association reported over 500 brewery closures nationwide that same year. And the biggest names in the business are feeling it too. Diageo, the conglomerate behind Guinness, Johnnie Walker, and Smirnoff, has watched its stock steadily erode, recently cutting both its dividend and its sales guidance. LVMH reported a significant drop in profit for its wine and spirits division, and AB InBev, the world's largest beer company responsible for Budweiser, Corona, and Stella, is reporting consistent volume declines across its entire portfolio. So from family vineyards to breweries to global booze empires.
If they did lower their prices and their profit margin, or their margin for profit, however you say that, I do think that there would be somewhat of like an uptick in their sales, because I'm trying to point out all the parts here. I would probably be more likely to buy alcohol more often if it didn't make me feel bad about how much I would be spending to do that.
Volume is down and the money is disappearing. But that doesn't really tell us why, and definitely doesn't point to Gen Z being the single reason these companies are struggling.
They're not.
At least not yet. But one thing is overwhelmingly clear. Something changed. People are taking their health more seriously.
I actually know people that are Gen Z, people that are millennials, and then I know some boomers and some Gen Xers. Like, none of them drink regularly. It's not a Gen Z thing. Most people do not drink regularly, I don't think. I mean, you could definitely, if prove me wrong, that's fine. I mean, just don't be an asshole. But like, I'm not seeing it in my real life. In my like everyday life, I'm just not seeing it. Some of them that I know don't drink at all, period. Not even just not regularly, but some of them not at all. I think it's Smigel.
So to really understand what changed, we have to understand what we were actually dealing with here, and that means going back, way back, because alcohol is not just a.
Also, considering he just played his ad, I want to let you know I will be linking his video down in the description. And I've watched a few of his videos now. He's pretty cool. You should go give him a sub. That'd be nice.
Product. It's one of the oldest and most deeply embedded parts of human culture and existence. Long before the apple martini or the Four Loko, our ancestors were fermenting
apple martinis. I have had one before. It was fire.
Whatever random sugars they could get their hands on. From Egyptians brewing beer to European monks making wine, generations of humans have always found a way to sell what many call liquid gold, which is why the alcohol industry earned one of the most coveted titles in business, recession-proof. Alcohol sailed through the Great Depression, Prohibition, 2 world wars, and the 2008 financial crisis without breaking a sweat. For years, the logic was, when times are good, people drink to celebrate. When times are bad, they drink to forget. And our youth? Well, despite the minimum drinking age being 21 in the US, underage drinking has typically been viewed as a cultural rite of passage. Just look at the iconic coming-of-age movies that.
And I almost feel like nowadays probably people are more likely to drink when they're underage than when they're 21. When they're 21, I feel like if it's available to them, they're more likely to go buy a THC pen.
Capture the youth in recent memory. For a period, it seemed like every generation had their own drinking movie. Dazed and Confused, American Pie, Superbad, Project X, each one making a Friday night keg stand look like the most important thing a young person could do. The irony is that all of these movies feature underage drinking, which is,
I also want to say, if anyone, I don't think anyone underage is watching this, but I want to tell you, if you are underage and you are watching this, first of all, you probably shouldn't be watching me. I do not make these videos for people underage. Okay, I'll tell you that. I'm a vulgar lady, and you should not be watching my videos. But if by chance you are, and I can't stop you from watching my videos, I want to tell you that underage drinking can be extremely dangerous. I have a night that I realized years later that I could not remember, and I was around some people I shouldn't trust. So do not drink underage. It's dangerous. It's not a good idea. You never know what could happen. So just don't do it. Wait until you are of age and drink with people you trust only. And if you go out drinking when you're of age and you drink with people you trust and y'all are out somewhere, do not lose them and do not let them lose you because people are terrible.
No, illegal. But despite the taboo and the R ratings, these movies either crushed it at the box office or later became cult classics. If you were a teen in the 2010s like myself, you might remember how influential Project X was. This movie in particular really captured the youth as it actually inspired several real-life, out-of-control copycat parties. One person in the Netherlands, inspired
I have never seen that. Just saying.
by the movie, tried to throw their own Project X style party, which involved thousands of people, rioting, property damage, and even the mayor of the town resigning because of how wild and uncontained the party got. I vividly remember sneaking into the movie theaters to see Project X with my friends back in the day because it was like so hyped up. I thought the movie was okay, but some people made it their whole personality for like 6 months. For a brief moment in American history, every suburban bro in a tank top thought he was one party away from becoming a legend.
People be doing stuff like that. Being young is honestly cringy. Like, it's so funny because young people make fun of older people. And I'm not saying you can't be cringy at any age. You can, obviously. But just being young, like when you look back at it, you're like, ugh. Kind of hate that I did that.
But this perfectly illustrates how influential glorifying things like binge drinking and partying is on people, especially our youth. Culture directly shapes behavior, and not just with kids. Alcohol has always had an equally powerful grip on adult culture too. There's happy hour after work, wine for book clubs, champagne at weddings, promotions, and retirements. Think about how deeply drinking is woven into the fabric of sports. You can't watch an NFL game without being bombarded by beer commercials. Some teams even feel like they're specifically designed to make you drink, like the Cleveland Browns. The point is, alcohol embedded itself into nearly every milestone and social
I didn't understand that.
occasion imaginable, which is exactly why for decades, betting against booze looked like one of the dumbest moves a person could make. So what changed? Well, that's where things get complicated. We're seeing a worldwide shift in how people socialize and spend their money, and alcohol is more or less getting caught in the middle of all of it. But here's the problem. Some of these explanations people are pointing to really don't explain anything. Take, for example, the death of third places. If you've never heard of the term third place before, it's pretty simple. Your first place is your home, your second place is work or
The third place now is the internet.
school. A third place is the spot in between. Historically, these places were pubs, clubs, bars, social centers, coffee shops, malls, or really anywhere you might spend your Friday night. Drinking is baked into many of these third places, and when the number of third places decline, drinking, in theory, should decline too. And look, that's not wrong, but it's not the best explanation either, because it's a classic chicken versus the egg situation. Did people start drinking less, which caused bars to close, or did bars close, which caused people to start drinking less? You can't use one to explain the other when they're moving together. The same problem shows up when people point to the cost of going out. Bars and restaurants run on razor-thin margins. When attendance drops, prices usually go up to survive. So did prices rise because fewer people were coming, or did fewer people come because prices got too high? Again, chicken versus the egg. This lack of nuance is also being applied to the conversation about Gen Z. There is one chart in particular that has been bouncing around social media for months. You've probably seen some version of it. Boomers, Gen X, and millennials each spending more than $20 billion a year on alcohol. And then Gen Z way off to the side at about $3 billion.
I mean, yeah, I guess I'm just not around
it looks
them.
like a smoking gun. Exhibit A, in the case of Gen Z, killed the alcohol industry. But there's a huge problem with how this chart's being used. First, half of Gen Z is not even old enough to drink legally.
What a great point. Good going, dude. What a great point.
In the US. Of course, a generation where millions of people are still teenagers is not going to outspend boomers who have had 40 years of bar tabs under their belt. Second, the chart is not actually measuring drinking habits. It's measuring total spending for households where the head of the household is Gen Z. That is a tiny slice of the generation, mostly people in their late to mid 20s with much lower incomes than older generations. Comparing their total alcohol dollars to boomers is like making a chart of mortgage payments by age group and then acting shocked that 19-year-olds are slacking on home ownership. I bring all of this up to not say these things don't contribute. They obviously do, but none of them alone explain a $830 billion collapse. I don't know if these generalizations say more about the current state of journalism, or maybe just that people would rather have a simple answer than a true one. But to reduce the decline of a $1 trillion industry that survived 2 world wars and a prohibition to, oh, well, I guess the kids aren't drinking anymore is not just bad journalism, it's missing the
Well, half of the kids that are in that statistic cannot buy alcohol. So why would that even be circulating? It's kind of crazy that it did to begin with, I guess.
actual story entirely. And that actual story is a lot more interesting. And it all starts in 2020. During the pandemic, everyone was trapped at home, and many started drinking. A lot. Quarantinis on Tuesdays was a thing, and for a time, alcohol sales actually spiked. People felt the need to either drink their sorrows or hop on Skype for a virtual happy hour. And yeah, that was cool for a little, but eventually that got old fast, like super fast. When everyone suddenly had the time to eat clean, maybe exercise, and actually pay attention to how their bodies felt, people realized, wow, I actually like feeling good. Around this same time, people also started being more open about their mental health, something that's been unfortunately stigmatized for decades. The pandemic opened a door that needed to be opened for a long time, and the proof is in the pudding. The global wellness industry has doubled in size since 2013, recently hitting a record $6.8 trillion. This includes gyms, supplements, skincare, spa treatments, and yes, therapy. People want to be healthy. That is a focus now more than ever. And guess what? Alcohol does not fit neatly into the wellness aesthetic. It wrecks your sleep, adds calories.
No, I've tried to pay a lot more attention to my health, and I struggle. I've struggled with my weight my entire life, and I ate a really bad diet most of it. Over the past decade, it's gotten a lot better, but over the past few months, I've pretty much transitioned into an 80-20 diet, 80% whole foods, 20% processed foods or highly processed foods or whatever. And I'm trying to keep track of my calories because it is very easy for me to gain weight, very easy. And it's hard for me to lose weight, especially after having my child. So like if I decide that I want to drink, the amount of calories that adds to my day, it would be like a whole meal. So I would have to plan around that or go way over my calories for the day. So he's making a great point here because a lot of people have the same kind of struggles I do, and a lot of people are trying to get a hold of their diet and eat better for their health. And so like you almost cannot drink, and if you do, you have to you have to be a total nerd and plan it out.
Spikes anxiety, and makes your smartwatch yell at you. This vibe shift gained even more traction in 2023 when the World Health Organization dropped a statement on alcohol consumption that went viral, stating that no amount of alcohol is actually safe for your health. It was a jarring contrast to the old "a glass of red wine every day is good for your heart" myth. Then in August 2025, Stanford Medicine basically torched whatever was left of that argument. Their researchers confirmed that even low levels of alcohol consumption are now clearly linked to an increased risk of at least 7 types of cancer. And that whole "a glass of red wine is good for your heart" thing, turns out that light drinkers tend to have healthier lifestyles across the board. So in those original observational studies, the wine was getting credit for things like diet and exercise. So yeah, it turns out that nightly glass of wine was not self-care, it was just wine. But beyond the pandemic and all the new research, this health-focused
what I got from that, and I could correct me if I'm wrong, is that light to moderate drinkers were healthier overall because maybe they just typically paid more attention to what they were ingesting in general instead of just ingesting.
Shift away from alcohol has been supercharged by celebrities, influencers, and social media in a way that we've never seen before. For example, Andrew Huberman hosts one of the largest podcasts in the world. Last time I checked, it was sitting around number 8, and he's done multiple episodes that received millions of views explaining the dangers of alcohol and the health benefits of reducing or even eliminating alcohol consumption. Then there's influencers like Sam Solik, who built one of the fastest growing fitness audiences on YouTube, and he's discussed a few times that alcohol has no place in your diet if fitness is your priority. When a man built like a refrigerated vending machine says not to drink, people listen. Now, you could argue that online voices like Huberman and Solik are niche, but we are seeing the same message bleed into mainstream celebrity culture. Billie Eilish, for example, has been vocal about the fact she doesn't drink or do drugs, famously telling Vogue that she's never been high. She's even written songs like Zanny that describe the dangers of substance use in young adults, famously saying she can't afford to love someone who isn't dying by mistake, which is a harsh yet beautiful line that cuts deep if you've ever been in love with somebody who is self-destructive. A lot of people know exactly what that feels like. I know I do.
Oh my god. That's great.
But in all
Throwbacks.
seriousness, to have one of the biggest pop stars on the planet make being
If I ever am able, like, I want to get some old cell phones and see if I can find some old pictures of me when I was a teenager. If I can ever do that, I will share those with you guys. It's a mission I'm on, but we have to dig some out of storage.
being clean, a core part of her identity, sends a massive signal to her fans that you don't need a vice to be edgy or creative. It reframes the rock star trope that's
Yeah, actually, I would argue to some degree, as someone who has lived and has experienced more than I'd like to admit, I would agree that, I think that to some degree, substances can stifle these things. Like, if I think back to when I was the most like myself, I don't think it's on accident that it's when I was younger. And a lot of that is societal because, you know, especially as a young woman, you're not allowed to really, like, the way I was not considered. I wasn't very ladylike or feminine. Like, my personality has always geared, I guess, more boyish in a way, like farts. Again, funniest thing ever when I was a kid. As an adult, like, I don't mean to catfish you guys if I have, and you can unsubscribe if you want because it might be too much for you, but eventually I'm sure that it will come out full force. I'm a very vulgar person. Like, my jokes are distasteful, okay? They're disgusting. I guess they're also situational, so you probably haven't seen much of that yet. But, like, I tell jokes like a 13-year-old boy sometimes, or I funny like a 13-year-old boy sometimes. I do think that my substance use over the years and when I was young has stifled my own creativity quite a bit. Like, I think that there is probably evidence to, if you moderately use certain substances, that it can put you in this like mode where you really want to get creative, and you can do that, but it is an extremely fine line. And I would say that in my personal experience, I honestly think it may be better to have no substances if you really want to bring that out of yourself. I could be totally wrong. Just my opinion.
Existed for decades. And the people listening to that message every day are who again? Oh yeah, millennials and Gen Z. But perhaps the most influential story and cultural data point we have right now belongs to Tom Holland, aka Spider-Man. Tom Holland is generally one of the most famous people alive, and he's been incredibly open about his relationship with alcohol. His path started with Dry January, the practice of going alcohol-free for the first month of the year, which he found surprisingly difficult. He realized that his first thought every day was about when he could have his next drink, and that realization scared him. Instead of just going back to the pub in February, he stayed sober and eventually launched Bureau, his own premium non-alcoholic beer. It was kind of crazy to see this play out in real time. When Bureau launched, thousands of people made fun of him online, and then staunch defenders came out to support him, showing just how divisive this conversation is. And sure, Holland and Eilish aren't the first celebrities to ever open up about their complicated relationship with alcohol or drugs, but between them, Huberman, Solik, and a wave of other influencers and celebrities talking about these lifestyle changes, adoption has become mainstream, normalized even, and that normalization is a huge part of why we are seeing this shift. For example, interest in dry January has never been higher. Without the internet, that likely never would have happened. Dry January videos exploded on TikTok and Instagram. And think about it, walking around college campuses trying to convince students to drink less is not as effective as a 60-second clip from Spider-Man opening up about his struggles with alcohol. This viral shift even birthed terms like sober curious, which sounds like a bad indie band name from 2012, but it's basically just a lifestyle choice that encourages voluntarily questioning or reducing alcohol consumption without committing to total lifelong abstinence. This has led to many bars and restaurants now offering something called mocktails, fun drinks with no alcohol in them, to try and capitalize on this new age
tons of sugar, though, probably. Be careful.
sober movement. Think a pina colada without the rum or a margarita without the tequila. And yes,
God, that looks good, though. I'd drink that twice. I'd throw it up and drink it again.
people are paying top dollar for these. Research suggests that mocktails are one of the fastest growing categories on menus. Interest has surged 142% over the past 4 years, and they're projected to grow an additional 97% through 2028. 5 years ago, if you ordered a fancy juice at the bar, someone would ask if you're pregnant or on medication. Now we have basically reinvented juice, put it in a nice glass, and added some rosemary and said, that'll be $15. Now, I don't want to give you the wrong idea. This all sounds really promising. As an optimist and someone who generally roots for good change, I like the idea of people cutting back on something that is proven to cause cancer and generational harm. But unfortunately, humans are still humans, and humans, especially young ones, rarely just stop having vices. Just because we're seeing drinking go down doesn't necessarily mean partying is down, or even drug use for that matter, or a dependency for drugs. Some people smoke, some people use nicotine, some people drink Monster energy drinks and play Counter-Strike until 4 in the morning. The point is the desire to alter.
Never played. Well, actually, I think I might have played Counter-Strike once. Maybe like twice. But not a Counter-Strike. Personally, nothing wrong with Counter-Strike. I just was really bad at it.
Your brain has not gone away. It has just diversified. And that diversification is another problem for big booze. Zyn in particular is noteworthy in this discussion. If you've been on a college campus or corporate office lately, it seems like nicotine pouches have become the unofficial sponsor of millennials and Gen Z. It's discreet, efficient, and being treated as the ultimate health optimization loophole. In 2024, Philip Morris reported that Zyn shipments grew by nearly 80% year over year. And
I'm gonna be honest with you. I've tried Zyns. They were incredibly dry to me, and the taste was not good to me personally. Like those two things, I was not a fan. If you've ever seen, don't use nicotine. Do not use it. But if you're gonna use something like that to get off of vaping or smoking, or to stop doing regular dipping or whatever, or you're going to use nicotine anyway because you're not going to listen to some bitch on the internet you don't know. Rogues, I think, are much better than Zyns are. I tried Rogues and I did like those. Just overall, everything about them was better. I did notice if I bought them from a particular place, they would almost be coming apart at the seams and like the little beads would be coming out. So if you buy them from somewhere and that happens, don't buy them from that place anymore. Go to another place. Again, I do not recommend using nicotine. But if you're somebody who's going to use Zyns, I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I mean, they weren't for me. In my opinion, they were terrible. And the Rogues, Rogue, those were so much better. Again, don't use nicotine. It is not a good thing to get used to using. It is not a good thing to have. And do not convince yourself that it's okay, because that can be dangerous. Just don't use it at all. But if you're absolutely going to, I recommend those any day over Zyns.
And they show no signs of slowing down. And while functionally it's a different type of drug compared to alcohol, it's still providing people a way to catch a buzz with less shame. But nothing is competing against alcohol quite like cannabis. In states where it is legal, research increasingly suggests that alcohol and cannabis are in direct competition for the same dollars and the same Friday nights. A growing number of people, particularly younger adults, are finding cannabis a more appealing option. In fact, one recent survey found that—
Fun fact, if you are going to be within proximity of a marijuana plant and you do not have a man bun, you will catch fire.
1 in 3 millennials and Gen Z adults now identify as California sober. That means they avoid alcohol but still use marijuana. Additionally, a separate report found 36% of cannabis users have explicitly stated they are using weed as a replacement for alcohol. We all knew weed was becoming destigmatized. Turns out that destigmatization is a direct attack on alcohol. And when you stack up the competition and look at the stats, it's no wonder Big Booze is concerned.
PvP.
They're fighting to keep their throne. Some are even choosing to adapt. For example, AB InBev, the company behind Budweiser, rolled out Budweiser Zero and has been quietly expanding its non-alcoholic lineup. Guinness launched Guinness Zero, and Heineken did the same thing with Heineken Zero, which is actually now one of the best-selling non-alcoholic beers on the market. Some of these conglomerates have even taken stakes in non-alcoholic spirit brands, functional drink startups, and cannabis and THC beverage companies to try and soften the blow in the future. But here's the problem. Tweaking your product lineup and investing in startups only gets you so far. Some players do not want to adapt. They just want to fight. And this is where things start to get dark. When a trillion-dollar industry that was thought as recession-proof starts to suffer, they will do anything, and I mean anything, to maintain power. In the US, we have something called the Lobbying Disclosure Act, which requires any organization paying people to influence the federal government to file public reports. There is a literal searchable database at LDA.gov where you can see who is paying whom, how much, which politicians or agencies they're targeting, and exactly what issues they're trying to influence. Crazy, huh? But it gets better. Instead of companies directly giving their money to politicians, they'll often route it through trade associations. And in our case, we are seeing alcohol companies do this with the Beer Institute and the Distilled Spirits Council. It's not that individual companies are banned from lobbying on their own. They obviously can and do that, but using a trade association gives corporations big advantages. They can pool money with their competitors, so the lobbying push is bigger. They can reframe everything as the voice of American beer instead of please protect our profit margins. If a lobbying campaign goes wrong, the brand's name is not the one plastered on the report, the trade association's is. And what are these alcohol trade groups actually lobbying for? Well, if we dig into those public filings I mentioned earlier on LDA.gov, you can see they spent millions lobbying the federal government for 2 issues, Farm Bill and something called dietary guidelines. At first glance, those issues might sound like boring government housekeeping. I promise you, they are not. The Farm Bill is a massive law Congress passes every few years that deals with farming, subsidies, and food policy. In 2018, the Farm Bill inadvertently legalized hemp under certain conditions, which opened a side door for a whole new wave of hemp-derived THC products. Now, remember when I said alcohol and cannabis are competing for the same Friday nights? Well, Big Booze knows that, and it's scaring them. So much so that instead of just trying to beat THC drinks on taste or branding, they are trying to beat them in the rulebook. Big Booze paid lobbyists to convince lawmakers to fix the Farm Bill by tightening the rules on these products. No matter where you stand on weed or THC, this is the definition of—
if you want to participate and benefit off of how is it worded, free market capitalism, if you want to participate in that, then you need to participate in that fully. You shut up. You don't lobby to try to get your competitors out. All right, you decided to participate in free market capitalism, and now that you feel like you might lose something, no, you don't get to try to cheat the system. Now, I guess you do. Technically, they do, but that just makes me livid. Like, how many people have you stepped on to profit in this economy, the structure we have? And now you're going to try, now you may lose profits, and you're going to try to stop someone else from using the free market. Like, get out of here. You're a loser. That makes me so mad.
Being a sore loser. Oh no, we're losing. I guess we'll spend millions of dollars to try and rig the game. But where it gets even more
rig these nuts
wild is the dietary guidelines issue I highlighted earlier. The Beer Institute alone spent more than $2 million in 2025 lobbying on dietary—
I hope they waste all of their money and then they still lose.
guidelines specifically. After the WHO, Stanford, and virtually every major public health association spent years building a case that alcohol causes cancer, the US Surgeon General pushed for the 2025 dietary guidelines to finally say it plainly. But by the time the final guidelines came out, those specifics were gone, softened to vague phrasing, the
What?
cancer message buried. And just like that, Big Booze lives to fight another day. And this, honestly, is where the Gen Z killed drinking.
Bars are doomed. This trend will only get worse. Gen Z doesn't drink. Gen Z killed alcohol, thousands of years of human culture. The hearthstone of I can't stop.
Narrative starts
I can't talk. I can't talk. I can't. But the good thing is that he's making this video talking about it, and people are gonna see it, and like a lot of Gen Z is going to want to drink even less when they find out that they've been trying to basically take out what they are wanting to use on their Friday nights. They're trying to make it harder for them all to get cannabis and THC substances, and they're just probably going to be even less likely to drink because it's just going to piss them off.
Look even more ridiculous. Because if the only problem was a bunch of 20-year-olds talking about dry January on TikTok, you would not see some of the largest and most powerful companies in the world spending millions of dollars trying to nudge science, guidelines, and the cannabis laws in their favor. The fact they're fighting this hard tells you the threat is structural, not generational. And when we take a step back and really analyze everything we talked about today, I think the answer becomes pretty obvious. Gen Z did not single-handedly kill alcohol. They're just the first generation to grow up in a world where alcohol is worse PR, more competition, fewer default rituals, and where saying I don't drink is socially acceptable. Big Booze's problem is not one generation. It is that the entire environment shifted faster than they did. A pandemic rewired how society approaches health. People became more conscious about what they put in their bodies, how they sleep, how they feel, and what actually improves their lives versus what just got normalized over decades of commercials and Hollywood movies. And at the same time, science, social media, and pop culture all started reinforcing the same message from completely different angles that drinking less was no longer something to hide or justify. Now, with that said, it's not like drinking is disappearing. There will still be bars, weddings, tailgates, and cold ones for many after a long week. What is dying is the version of alcohol that assumes every adult would drink by default, drink often, and would never really question it. And if you're a company that spent the last 50 years betting that human behavior would never change, Gen Z is not your biggest problem. Reality is. I generally don't know why people like to blame Gen Z for everything, but I do think people should stop, not because it's mean or anything, but because it's a bad argument. Give them 10 more years, some disposable income, and for the love of God, some affordable housing, and then let's have a real conversation about their consumer behavior. Until then, maybe we stop pointing fingers at the youngest adults in the room and start paying attention to the trillion-dollar industry quietly lobbying to keep you uninformed. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on the matter.
There's something he pointed out there that not blaming the youngest generation in the room. I genuinely thought that millennials wouldn't fall into that whenever it was happening to us, because I was like, you know what, we're going to be the first generation to self-reflect and realize that how dumb it is to blame basically the children of the economy, like the people that are new to it and the people that are coming into a system that's already made, you know, before they even get there, for being the reason that like things like this are happening. Like that, like this has been happening for a long time, but I just want to point out how mad it makes me that there are millennials out there talking shit about Gen Z. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You learned nothing. You have zero self-reflection skills, and it makes me angry. Like, just shut up. But no, I think that this downtrend was inevitable, and it's been happening for a long time. Like, I remember there was, I think, a while back where it was like, millennials have killed the diamond industry. And it's like, no, hun, we didn't. We just can't afford diamonds. Like, I remember reading that and being like, how brain dead do you have to be to think that that is like something that we're intentionally doing and not just a symptom of the economy and what we can afford and what we can do. I get so sick of people having brain dead arguments like that. You know, I remember being a kid and like we would go on vacation and there would be a gift shop and it would have a shirt that would say something about like hating stupid people or stupid people, whatever. Like if you know, you know. But I always wondered or somewhat thought about as a kid, like, that just, I don't know. Like I guess I really didn't understand it until I become an adult. And now, like, when you're old enough and you understand more and you have critical thinking skills and you're able to self reflect and just all this and that, and you run into people or see people or hear about people or whatever that can't do that, it's really incredibly aggravating. Like I completely understand the shirt now. I want the shirt and the shorts. I wear them every day because it's really hard to not just be like, it's really hard to not do that. But yeah, I think that the alcohol industry has, and a lot of other industries have been set up for failure by the economy. And I think if they really want to do something about it, all of these industries could play their part in lobbying for maybe a higher minimum wage. Because the real problem is that millennials and Gen Z can't afford things. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. The real problem that is killing industries is that millennials and Gen Z cannot afford things. Period. The end.